Welcome to round 9 of the 2015 World Championship Qualifier here in North America in Nashville, Tennessee. We are joining a match that has just begun of Adam Schaffer versus Austin Lamir in a match that pits each of their Clifford decks against one another. Both of these duelists currently have 19 points. That's 6 wins and 1 draw, along with 1 loss. So both of them will make it to day 2. However, a victory here will place one of them in a much better position to make a top 64 finish and maintain their hopes of becoming the North American champion and competing in the World Championship.
Yeah, 6-2-1 is not where you want to be at the end because you have to win all 3 of your matches tomorrow and cross your fingers.
Yeah. So looks like Schaffer started off the duel with Clifford Scout, activates effect by paying 800 life points, summoned a carrier, equipped it with Sacrifice and set 2 cards to his back row. And now we are watching Austin Lamir in action, using his own Summoner's Art to add his own Clifford Scout to his hand, and now place it in his Pendulum Zone where he can take advantage of its effect.
Remarkably similar deck list between the two, but one of the key additions to Lamir's that we don't see in Schaffer's is Performapal Trample Links, which allows for some pretty crazy combos if you can get it soon enough and with enough summons left to make it work. He's also running Apocalypse 4 Towers in the main deck, which I don't think I've seen in quite a while. I've seen it sided in about a month ago at the 150th. We saw a duelist side in Apocalypse 4 Towers against Ultra Athletes.
Seems like it would be fairly good in this matchup, right?
Well, if there's nothing your opponent can do about it.
Tough to take down. We'll see whether it has an impact.
Mind Crush is flipped to discard the carrier that was just searched out.
That's curious. He didn't use it to get rid of the Scout that he searched for with Summoner's Art.
Takes a quick look.
Seems like preempting the search would have been more beneficial.
Now, the reason you do it is so that your opponent can't just have another Scout and play that as well. This way he gets 800 life points off him and wastes his Scout for the turn. Even if he has the other one, he would have to clog his Pendulum Zones to play it. Upstart Goblins played next. Like he's drawn into Monolith with that. Normal summons, Clifford Shell. Clifford Shell's been seeing a lot more popularity as of late as a way to force damage through defense position monsters, much like the ones that tend to populate the field when you play against ritual beasts.
Now he equips his shell with a Sacrifice, so his monster is equally invincible in battle. So
Fairly strong turn for both of them. Schaffer goes ahead and activates his own Scout. Both players have 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon in their deck, so it's possible to destroy the Scout in response to its ability. Cards that remain face-up on the field, like continuous spell or trap cards, equip cards, field spells, and also cards in the Pendulum Zone. As soon as they leave the field, so does their effect, even if it has yet to resolve.
that's why those cards are, particularly Clifford Scout, is also vulnerable to Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, available in Crossed Souls.
Clifford Stealth is the pick. Sacrifice has a number of different effects. Plus 300 attack. Yeah, okay, whatever. Indestructible by battle. All right, cool. If it's sent to the graveyard, you get a Cleave card from your deck to your hand. Still pretty good. Oh, and you can also count your monster as 2 tributes for Clifford.
Yes, so all of those could be coming in handy here.
So he's got a Monolith of his own. He's also got the Stealth that he just searched out. Activates Monolith. Lamir is considering a response to it. being very hard about this. Decides against it.
Right. So Schaffer tributes his monster, to summon Clifford Stealth. Sacrifice goes to the graveyard, and then he gets to use its effect as well as distributed carrier's effect. Looks like he's going to return.
And the key here is the chain is formed in such a way that Stealth is the last card on, which makes it so Lamir can't respond at all. Takes a face-down card back to the hand.
Okay, so targets a back row to return to the hand. And then after that, we'll see him grab a card from his deck with the effect of Sacrifice.
Bill goes back, sacrifice to the graveyard. Yep. And now both players will search for Sacrifice. Separate chains in this case. Sacrifice was on the first chain, and the other Sacrifice didn't go to the graveyard until the current chain was resolving, so we needed to wait. Helix is the selection from Schaffer.
Now Lamir is making his choice.
Now it's important to note that Schaffer now has 2 monsters that he can Pendulum Summon, and he's going to get a draw in the end phase off of Monolith. Picking up a carrier is the choice for Lamir.
Lamir is looking to fill up his own Pendulum Zones, which he does not yet have, but can easily do.
Myers finished shuffling. How aggressively Schaffer decides to play it.
That'll be interesting to see.
One school of thought is you get rid of as many of those life points as you possibly can to limit the number of possible searches your opponent has.
It's like that's what he's going to do. He performs a Pendulum Summon to summon both of his monsters, the one in the hand as well as the one in his extra deck, to the field, and he's pushing through with direct attacks from all 3 of his monsters.
18 and 18 is 36. The full power 28 from Stealth brings that total up to 6,400. Which leaves Lamir at exactly 800. He can't use his Scout. Yes, the aggressive play is definitely the right play.
Well, was he at 74 before?
Lamir is at 72.
Oh, 72, yes. That 5 points mixed up. You're right. So that seems like a very good play.
Exactly 800.
Unless I'm wrong. Pretty sure I'm right.
Of course, Clifford Scout, even though it's, Lamir can't use its effect to search his deck for cards to add to his hand while he's at 800 or fewer life points. He can, this does still...
Yeah, he can still,
he can still use it to Pendulum Summon, and that might be all he needs here. If he can summon a big enough Pendulum monster.
Well, all of the Pendulum Summon Cliffords will be set to their weakened level 4 1800 attack power. So he has to have the other end of the pendulum scale. He needs to get the tributes for something, and he has to have drawn a monster to tribute summon.
It does look like he has 4 pendulum monsters in his hand, though.
Yes, so we know Shell is back in his hand, so he at least has something to tribute summon, and we know he has Monolith.
But there's a Stealth.
Sorry, not Monoliths.
It depends on how people land. Some people land on top of that. Is that an issue for you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which monsters are in his hand. There's a Stealth for his Pendulum Zone, though. Oh, Humanity's Emptiness.
Wow.
He's going to flip face up. Brutal. Yeah, so now he can't Pendulum Summon at all. So no matter which Pendulum monsters are in his hand, whatever he'd be able to tribute them for, it becomes irrelevant. It is sent into Humanity's Emptiness.
And in fact, his other face down is his own copy of Vanity's Emptiness.
which will not help against your opponents. It'll only create a duplicative effect that is not beneficial to anyone.
So here's a question. Should he have flipped his own Vanity's Emptiness and tried to save himself some life points there?
I would say that's interesting because
You've already used Sacrifice,
yeah,
so you're not getting monsters that way.
I would probably say no. He didn't know his opponent had the Vanity's Emptiness, so that's might be what did him in. I can't say for certain because I'm not sure what was in his hand at the very end. But if he had flipped his own Vanity's Emptiness, he could have been in trouble because he was staring down a stronger monster that his opponent controlled. And it didn't look like he had any way to get rid of his own Vanity's
he needed to get
Emptiness
rid of it
and
somehow,
needed
too.
his own special summons to try to get over Schaffer's monster. So he would actually risk locking himself out. Now, knowing your opponent has a Vanity's Emptiness, that of course
Yeah, that would have changed it. but
changes the decision. If you
it's-
know he has it, you want to flip it now to at least stop him from
Right.
getting more monsters on the field, maybe allowing
It is a
yourself to
game
buy
of
some
imperfect
time.
information, though.
That is exactly correct, and that is exactly why he made the play he did, which appears to me to be a completely justifiable
no,
play.
I think it was the right play.
Yeah. But had he had perfect information, had he had that Millennium Eye that
Yes.
allowed him to see his opponent's cards,
Fortunately, Mr. Pegasus has
yeah.
retired for the evening.
yes, then we can say that he probably would have played it differently, but can't fault him for the way he did play.
Now, I get the feeling that the effect veilers are going to be immediately swapped out for Ghost Ogres.
That is
By anybody
certainly
who
a
can do it.
safe assumption. Effect Veiler is not very useful in this particular
Sheffer's
matchup.
got them. I don't think Lamir has them anywhere.
He does not. I think we can see Max C coming out too from Lamir's main deck.
Yep.
Schaffer is not main decking Max C, so it looks like that's the that's
There you
one
go.
difference between these two decks. Schaffer's playing 2 Veilers, Lamir's playing 2 copies of Max C. Neither of them are great in this matchup.
What could be interesting is if we get the Monarch Stormforth in for Game 2 from both sides to see how the players try to bounce off each other's various tributing effects.
That is interesting. They are both using the Monarch Stormforth in their side decks.
Generally, the best you can really get out of it is if your opponent leaves their sacrificed monster out, you can use it for 2 tributes for your own
Yeah.
Clifford monster.
They also have Schaffer's using 2 copies of Vanity's Fiend in his side deck, and Lamir is using 1 copy of Vanity's Fiend and 1 copy of Majesty's Fiend. We can see those coming in
You
too.
can see the fiends. Kind of like Majesty a little more here, because it stops the effects from activating. That's what
Yeah.
really kills you. It's all of your cards going back to your hand, etc.
Yeah. Spell Shattering Arrow is in Lamir's side deck. We'll definitely see that coming in.
Yes.
Pendulum Impenetrable is also in his side
Yeah,
deck.
that's an interesting card that I thought there might be a little more buzz about when it first came out. But I guess at the time, Cliffords hadn't really made their resurgence yet, thanks to lose 1 turn. And so the current environment had been lacking a pendulum-powered deck for Pendulum Impenetrable to protect. Looks like side decking was fairly quick. And we're already ready to go.
Yes, these players are wasting no time getting to Duel 2. Lamir,
Starts with Helix and 3 face down.
to his dismay, did not start with a Clifford Scout.
Now his opponent has started off with double Pot of Duality. He only plays 2, drew them both. Not a very high chance of that happening, like 1.5% or so.
Yeah, that's fairly unfortunate since it can only be activated once per turn. But, gets a new card, so it's not
At least he
The
knows his
worst.
opponent doesn't have Scout. So he's
Yeah.
got at least 1 turn to try to find it.
that Solemn Warning, sets Vanity's Emptiness, sets Sacrifice, sets Book of Moon.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then
And
activates
now
Pot
he
of
activates Pot
Duality.
of Duality.
I feel like I would want more information
I think what he's doing
before setting those, no?
is giving his opponent less information for Mind Crush. So his opponent gets to see what he takes off Pot of Duality, so he could potentially Mind Crush if he has it.
That's
Oh.
a great. So that's a
He
great
doesn't know
play.
his opponent hasn't got Mind Crush.
Right.
But assuming that his opponent's deck is similar to his own, and Sheffer does run Mind Crush, he's denying his opponent the free information that he would get.
That is
in
a great
addition to
play. So
cards.
he's playing around a very popular card in the current environment, playing around Mind Crush, so that if his opponent has it, when he activates it, knowing a card in Schaffer's hand, he gets to see fewer cards.
Right. Summoner's Art is the card he takes off Duality, and he goes to get his Scout. Probably breathing a sigh of relief right now that Mind Crush wasn't there,
Yes.
because he gets to start with Scout, and his opponent does not. Question is, what's the first thing you get here? I guess you got to get a monster, right?
Looks like it since he's lacking it.
Scout is activated. It is successful. No spell shattering arrow here. And he gets a Helix of his own, matching Lamir's. Now here he can just trade off his monsters against Lamir's as much as he wants.
Yeah, because
As long as Lamir doesn't get his Scout, he'll constantly be in the lead.
Exactly. And that looks like what we might see here. He's summoning his own Helix.
Helix drops with Sacrifice.
The extra 300 attack points can be relevant here.
Don't even need to trade off your monster here.
And the indestructibility in battle.
Yeah, I'm in the double
Would
tribute
work
because
just
you
as
have Scout
well.
next turn. Everything is coming up Sheffer right about now.
Yeah. And the Helix retreats to the extra deck. If Lamir ever manages to amass a field and get cards in both of his Pendulum zones, we might see that Helix come back. But he'd really like a Scout. There's the Monarch Storm 4th.
There's Monarch Storm 4th.
Not useful without a monster in your hand that you can tribute summon. The good news is, since there's a sacrifice on the Helix,
Yeah,
you
you
can
could-
draw
you could
any
go
tribute
double.
monster, even a double tribute monster, and still Storm 4th.
Sheffer picks up Regeki.
I do like Raigeki in this matchup.
Yeah, just because it opens a hole for you to win.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of players don't like it because of the fact that they go to the extra deck and it can easily come back. But I like it because of the fact that you can clear their field and potentially, take down their life points right then and there.
The nice selection with Pot of Duality there.
Yeah. Mystical Space, I think Phoenix Chain and Clifford Stealth. Looks like he adds the Stealth to his hand.
And he still hasn't used his Scout Search here.
He hasn't, that is true.
A little interesting. I thought he might consider taking the Mystical Space Typhoon. Just in case his opponent drew the Scout, he could blast his strategy back to the Stone Age.
That seems like it would be a good play.
But by getting the Stealth here, he still saves his Clifford Scout, so he could go get a Monolith or whatever else he might want. And with this play, he can destroy one Speller Trap as is, and bounce another card back to the hand. Takes out the one on the left, and bounces the one in the middle of the remaining cards back to the hand. Of course, nothing can be chained here because Clifford Stealth is chain link 2. And the Monarch Stormforth is destroyed.
No big loss to Lamir because he has another one in his hand, right? Wasn't that an additional Monarch Storm 4?
Next up, Clifford Scout. Goes ahead and grabs the Monolith. I'm not entirely certain what was left there.
Okay,
It looked like a trap.
We'll see on his next turn. Yeah, he's grabbing the Monolith with the effect of Sacrifice.
Now, Monolith doesn't need to have been on the field when the Tribute Summon happened. It's just if you Tribute Summoned this turn,
Ah, that's cool. That's good to know.
you'll still be able to grab a card in the end phase. And he has yet to battle as well.
Yeah,
Oh, now we're getting,
the Scout effect.
yeah, I guess this is the Scout effect, because Sacrifice is the
Right.
previous one. And he grabs another Helix. He's loading up on cards to help him break through all of those traps.
Yeah. Things appear to be getting worse for Lamir by the second.
Really needs Scout,
Yeah.
basically. And he needs enough life points to use it with.
Yeah, if Schaffer had taken that mystical space typhoon, then he'd be in even more dire straits.
Could be that he's banking that the cards he has are good enough to survive one turn of Scout.
That's also possible. There's not that many cards in Lamir's possession. Oh, you're right. There were 2 trap cards in his hand, not a Monarch Stormforth. There's a Vanity's Emptiness and a lose 1 turn.
Clifford has
So-
Book of Moon face down. Attacks with stealth.
Oh, there's not much Lamir can draw here.
Phase 2 sets Regeki, activates stealth. And at the end of his turn, he draws Mind Crush. Oh, is that Spell Shattering Arrow?
Yeah, so that's not horrible, I guess, but it's not going to save him here.
Yes, he sets the rest of his hand. And at least he's not going to get Pendulum Dawn. Jeffrey draws, picks up Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. As expected, sided that in. Most likely for the Veilers.
Well, I assume Lamir is waiting for Schaffer to activate the effect of his Scout, and then we'll use the Spell Shattering Arrows.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, though, and if Schaffer goes straight for the Pendulum Summon, Lamir will lose, right?
Likely. Trying to get as much burn damage out of it as possible. Oh,
Okay.
and he goes for Scout first.
He does go for the Scout.
That's 800, and the arrows will do another 1,000 if he flips them, which he really probably should here. There's not a whole lot left to do. He does not flip the arrows. I guess he's going for a max bluff strategy. I'm not going to flip any of my cards.
All right, that's a bold strategy.
Not one that I know that I could go through with
Yeah.
at this point. Could just figure, not a whole lot to lose other than this duel, which I was probably going to lose anyways. So I might as well see if I can just make put the absolute fear of traps into Sheffer.
Committed to the 5 back row bluff.
Yes. The 5 back row bluff doesn't work very often. Normally when you slam all your cards face down there and don't have anything else, people kind of figure that's what you're going for.
It's usually a tell. I think he'd be just as successful with the 4 back row bluff, having activated the Spell Shattering Arrows. So here's the Pendulum Summon, which he has now enabled.
He's got Torrential.
I did not realize Lamir had that face down, so I guess it was not a total bluff.
I did not see the Torrential.
So that's actually really good. It's probably not good enough, though. Well, actually, it might be, because now he's got the Spell Shattering Arrows for the Pendulums.
In there. Everything worked out better than expected.
Yeah, way better than expected, because we didn't see the Torrential Tribute. Yeah, so potentially he can come back in this duel, but he still needs a Scout of
he
his
has to get
own.
Scout.
Yeah.
It's just not happening otherwise.
Yeah, without that Scout, he's just still falling behind.
So now I think he kind of has to flip the arrows right away.
Same story. He might be waiting for Schaffer to activate the effect of his Scout and pay the 800 life points.
Good, but unless he's also got Mirror Force or Bottleness down there. Okay. Vanity's Emptiness, just as good in this case.
So we saw that earlier, so he's just activating it.
That's going to stop all the monsters from coming back.
Yeah.
Still hanging on there.
Yeah. I'm still not in great shape, though, because Schaffer still has a monster to summon, even if it's just a Helix to normal summon with 1,800 attack points. That's still something. Lamir's only at 4,900.
1,800 works, and next turn he can just try to use Scout. And then if the arrows are chained Well, then you lose your emptiness as well.
Yes, that's true. Actually, he can use the scout now, right?
Yeah, he could.
He hasn't done it yet, and then if his opponent changes the arrows, the Vanity's emptiness will go down, as you mentioned. That's interesting. I'm kind of surprised he didn't scout already.
Looks like he attacks, sending Austin Lamir down to 3,100 life points. And I'm guessing that the final offensive is going to be next turn. Because with the scout there, even with Vanity's Emptiness, he can go get another one of the level 6 Clifforts and tribute the Helix for it to clear everything out at once. Lamir playing very cautiously. He's finally got a monster, the Helix, and it looks like he also picked up, I think that's Pendulum Impenetrable, which is not super useful if you're not the one with cards in your Pendulum Zone. And yes, we've got confirmation that it is Pendulum Impenetrable.
So he summons his own Clifford Carrier. And not the most useful draw here. He would have greatly preferred a scout.
If he can keep that on the field somehow, then he'd be pretty good. But his opponent does have that Book of Moon.
Yeah.
Lets it go. Both cards are sent to the extra deck. Card was not sent to the graveyard, so emptiness stays. The other thing to look out for Sheffer is that all of his spell and trap card zones are filled. So even if he were to draw Mystical Space Typhoon, he couldn't play it.
Yeah, that's true.
Activates the Scout.
So here's where we're going to see the Spell Shattering arrow.
And here's the Spell Shattering.
So it's actually not bad for Lamir because Schaffer can't replace the 2 cards in his Pendulum Zone immediately.
Maybe.
Unless he draws one with that Upstart Goblin.
He'd have to get I think a 9 off of it.
Yeah, so we'll see about that. In the meantime, the Vanity's Emptiness is gone as a result of that Spell Shattering arrow hitting the graveyard.
And he still has to clear out one of his spaces if he wants to play that Upstart Goblin.
Ah, that is true. He's actually unable to do that.
Not.
And there's a Summoner's Art. So finally,
this is going to be a heartbreaker.
Finally, Lamir is able to add a Clifford Scout to his hand.
Gets it. And it's just going to get snow rabbited.
Yeah.
And all we can do is watch. That was what would have been an incredible turn of fortune for Austin Lamir.
Yes.
Stops being so.
It's
wait, now he's got Pendulum Impenetrable.
Oh.
Never mind. I forgot. He had Pendulum Impenetrable.
So it's coming in handy now. Unless
finally, it will show its true power.
Yeah, unless Schaffer has another card face down that can also destroy the Scout in response to the Impenetrable.
Ghost Ogre is activated. And Lamir chains Pendulum Impenetrable. Schaefer checks his 5 cards, and now it looks like he's the one with the 5-card back row bluff.
Yeah.
And it is successful.
It was a interesting change in fortune there. Looked like Schaffer had the upper hand by a lot.
It had all turned on that Torrential Tribute, which has been a really popular card today when it wasn't really a month ago. That's good. I think Torrential is a very good pick right now, especially with so many decks trying to rush you down.
And that was very well played by Lamir also, because he really allowed Schaffer to walk into that.
Yep. Even we walked into it.
We did, and we didn't know that was down there. He made it look like he was just bluffing by setting 3 back rows. And Schaffer fell into the Torrential Tribute, lost 3 monsters, and that allowed Lamir to come back here.
I was got to think, do I need to complete my Pendulum Scale, or do I just need a monster? And he goes for Clifford Helix.
Life points are getting low here.
Yes.
So the utility of the Scout is quickly diminishing.
Mind Crush takes the Helix. And in the end, the scout was unable to do its job. Now here's the question. You're already down, and you now have, appears to be 2 upstart goblins in your hand. Do you want to give your opponent back the life points?
Yeah, that's kind of tough because you're giving him 2 more activations of that scout.
Summon stealth.
Like he doesn't want to activate the upstart goblins. As I would assume he would have done so before summoning the stealth if he intended to do so.
Goes ahead and attacks with it to put Lamir down to 500. So yes, shutting off the scout is more important here. Lamir's checking to see if you'd like to respond to that attack. He does run Mirror Force. If we missed a Torrential Tribute, we very well could have missed a Mirror Force.
Fiendish Chain instead.
At least it is Fiendish Chain. So it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it will stop the attack. On the other hand, his stealth will go back up to 2,800.
So now Schaffer might want to reconsider using those upstart goblins.
Well, he's certainly going to use one as a bluff.
Not exactly the use I had anticipated.
Doesn't count as use for prohibition. It actually does for prohibition. Can't set it.
That's true.
Boy, am I glad we haven't seen that card today.
Yeah, not a huge fan of that card. Mostly because of the complicated card rulings involved with it.
Anything where you have to name a card and it's not done right away, like Mind Crush, pass.
Yeah. It's really the definition of the word use that confuses me. It always has.
Scout searches out Sacrifice, getting dangerously low on life points there. I'll drop him to 1,500. One more attack from any Clifford directly will do it. See, he does have a monster in his hand. Pick that up for the turn. Planning out his future plays. Looks like that is Clifford Disc.
It is.
Disc, which is a monster with a pendulum scale of 1. That will complete the set. And he's got 2 cards to bring out with it.
Like Schaffer is unable to stop the pendulum summon. So that's a pretty big play for Lamir.
Pendulum Summon is declared, and he actually does have a card that can stop it. And right now they're questioning whether or not he has to declare what he is Pendulum Summoning first before cards like Solemn Warning can respond to it. The answer should be yes. You have to say, I'm Pendulum Summoning this, this, and this. And then Solemn Warning can be activated to negate it. And send them all to the graveyard, not the extra deck.
That sounds pretty powerful here. And Schaffer has just enough life points to do it. He has 3,000 life points, so he can pay 2,000 of those to activate Solemn Warning. And just like that, fortune has changed again. Now
Still got to get that last 1,500 in somehow, though.
Well, that's true. His monster can attack.
Oh, but he's got Book of Moon.
Ah,
That's right. He's got Book of Moon to
no
free his monster from the chain during the end phase. And Lamir has had enough.
Yes, he offers the handshake.
Lose a turn. That's the card
Okay.
that I thought I had seen in his hand, not the Torrential. And that does it. Adam Scheffer takes a 2-0 victory in round 9, the final round of day 1 of the 2015 North American World Championship Qualifier. He will be back with 22 points tomorrow, and so will Austin Lamir with 19, but Austin will have to win all 3 of his matches to even stand a chance of making it, whereas there is a slight room for error on Scheffer's side. Either
Yes.
way, they probably would not like to error. That would
Yeah.
be not
Winning,
so good.
winning all 3 rounds tomorrow sounds like the best plan.
Yep, it's the only way to guarantee that you're
Yeah.
going to make it in.
So we'll be back tomorrow with more coverage, more live duels.
Scheduled start time 9 a.m. Central Standard Time.
And we will see a lot more action, and we will determine which 6 duelists will be competing in the 2015 Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship this year.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Look where he is. No. As soon as you guys are finished.